So hello everyone, we're back with Front Runners Innovate and we have with us Alana Stott. And Alana is a front runner you have seen many times. She wears a lot of hats and has over the years because she solves a lot of problems. This is one that will always be a front runner because she knows where the problems are and just goes at it until she finds a good solution. She has a solution today she's going to talk to us about. And I'm fascinated because I think it fits some different models that some challenges actually out there that a lot of people have that don't realize that there is something like this out there. And so, Alana, I'm tickled that you're coming back with this and sharing this information with our audience and allowing me to move it forward to other people. So this
Yay,
is
thank
terrific.
you.
Yes. So what we're talking about today is Rakini organization. And so I want you to share, first of all, a little bit about the why you decided that this was something that you needed to develop, what Rakini actually means, and give us a little bit of background on it. And because I feel like there's a story behind it, and I always love the story first.
Yeah.
So share that with us, if you will.
Uh, yeah, so as you know, I'm always at the intersection of profit and purpose. That's always been what I'm interested in. I don't have some extravagant lifestyle where I'm buying Ferraris everywhere. So that's never been my mindset because it's never going to work for me. I basically wear the same clothes every day and try and do as little extra stuff out of my household. But that's not really the point. I think if you've read How to Ask for Money in my book, you'll know that I have had two motivations my entire life, ever since I was a little girl. And it was making money and helping people. And I love it when they can intersect together. That I always knew that was my mindset. And it wasn't necessarily to have money. I just enjoy the thrill of sales. I enjoy the thrill of finance. Like money is something for me. And I know that money can change the world. So I have worked in many different hats over the years, worked in, banking, debt collecting, security, hospitality, like you name it, I've probably been in the industry at some point or another. But where I do genuinely thrive in is anything to do with finances. But I remember my mum, before she died, she always said I was going to be an accountant. But although I was very good with numbers, I was bored by it sometimes. I could get a bit bored just working constantly with the numbers. But problem solving is my income right now. So my open source intelligence work, finding solutions to people's problems has always been what I do. So I work with a number of nonprofits and I help them basically make more money. So a nonprofit will take me on generally on a 12-month contract, and we'll look at where they're at, where they need to go. So if I take one of my nonprofits as an example, when I met with the CEO, he was operating at about one stroke two areas of income. So you'll find with nonprofits, they're run by people with an incredible heart and an incredible passion for what they're doing, but their business mind isn't so diversified like a successful entrepreneur would be. So what I do is I work with around about 10 different areas of income generating for nonprofits. So if I see them at one or two, I'm like, I know I can help here. I know that I can get you into three, four, five, six. About five is where the sweet spot is of what's manageable. So I would work with them and then I would take them through to the end and teach them how to do it themselves. And then after the 12 months, I walk away. So this one I'm speaking about, we started at 1.8 and I asked him what he wanted and he said he wanted 2 million. And I said that wasn't worth my time to work for him for that. He needs to increase it. So we managed to force him to 2.5. And at the end of the year, we were at 4.1 million. And I think they're looking to double that again this year. So it's great because I get to teach and it gets to grow, which is fab. But we were talking about one of the areas that we were talking about with him, which is one that I thought would be very powerful for him, was that he has this huge nonprofits, as you know, have a huge mailing list. They have huge loyalty from their donors and the people that support their causes. So I said, why not develop a for-profit arm of your nonprofit that can then fund your nonprofit activity, so you're not constantly having to do events and grant writing and all these things. You just have this steady income coming from a nonprofit. Then we started working on that with them, and then I guess it was when USAID got cut earlier this year. I really saw how badly that affected the people that are sticking to just that one or two sources of income. And if that one source of income is government grants and they pull them, nonprofit, and now you see what happened with USAID, nonprofits were just collapsing like overnight. And these are important nonprofits. You know, we've got people right now, I believe there's about 250,000 people stuck in South Sudan because the IOM got 47% of their budget cut overnight. So it's really awful when these things happen, but that's because we've got a huge government reliance. And then you can see the government shutdown about how much that affected when we have such a powerful reliance on government. So I had this idea of developing a venture capital fund that all of our portfolio companies within the fund gave up to 100% of their profits back to nonprofits. And how we would make it different was, first of all, for the LPs, for the limited partners who were investing in the fund, they were getting the same thing that they would get by investing in any other fund, is that they're putting their money in and they want a return on their money. Usually during exit is when they're getting their return. So we're still building this for-profit company to eventually exit and get a good sale. They get their return, but during this process, the end of year profit, so this is after salaries, after bonuses, after anything that you're paying out, these profits are going to a nonprofit. And by attaching a nonprofit to them as a trust or as a shareholder, we're avoiding any tax that's going, and I shouldn't say the word tax avoidance, I'm saying that we're basically creating a really good system where we're not paying large amounts of tax on profits. We're putting the profits in, so we're getting the 100% write-off because there's an attachment already there. So we're doing it more as a dividend or as a trust. And then within our fund, we then manage that money and we can then distribute it to the nonprofits who we also manage. So we'll then take the nonprofits in-house too, and we manage the nonprofits to make sure they're running like a business and make sure they're running successfully. So we're managing these portfolio companies, we're managing the nonprofits, and then within that we manage a DAF fund, so a donor advised fund. And that means that if said investor or said donor doesn't quite know what he wants to do with that money yet, he can put it into our donor advised fund. He gets his tax write-off immediately. We hold the funds until he knows what he wants to do. And we can either assign it for him or we can create his own foundation that he can then use to put it to whatever cause he wants to do. But the whole purpose is to align the for-profit and the non-profit with something that's benefiting the world. So if you're doing something that's tackling homelessness or poverty or food shortages or human trafficking or veterans causes, that's within there. And it brings that power back to the community to fix the problems rather than waiting for the handout, which is what we're constantly seeing, is that people are just waiting for those handouts, and it's just because that's the way society's been built. So it's the idea is to change that way and get it back into the community's hands.
Helpful here is also just give a either case study or just give an example of
What would be ideal in this scenario of a type of, do it, what I need in my world is also to see from the nonprofit side, what type of nonprofits, because I can tell you for my audience, there'll be nonprofits going, I want to be one of your nonprofits, your charities yeah. From the for-profit side, the type of for-profits you're looking for that would be excited to be involved in what you're doing, so that you're looking for.
Yeah, so we'll start with the investor. For the investor side, we're looking for people who are, they're used to investment, but they want to see more impact. They want to see more legacy creation from what they're investing, and that could be first, second, third generation. We can work with them as an almost like management of their family office. So if they're not quite sure how, often you can see first and third like coming to loggerheads about what cause they're going to be working with. So we can help them with that. Then what we're going to do is, because I don't know if you've done much investment in funds, but when you invest in a VC fund, you'll generally get a return based on what those portfolio companies have been doing. So what's been happening this year with those portfolio companies, and they'll just give you a brief rundown of that. When you get our legacy report, you'll be able to see how all the nonprofits are benefiting, how all the portfolio companies are benefiting, how the whole system is working. So every year, when you're sitting down at that family dinner, you can be like, this is what our $1 million has done this year for us, rather than the usual just, oh, well, we might have doubled our money, or we're actually going to create some real legacy for your family. And then the portfolio companies, they need to have a direction where they're going to be comfortable with speaking about that they're not going to keep their profits. And I generally haven't had much pushback on that, because once we explain it, that you're still getting everything that you want out of your business. So you still get to take home a salary, you can still take bonuses if you want, you still grow your business, you still do all the things you would normally do. It's just that dividend at the end that you're not keeping hold of. You're putting that somewhere else. But what we're doing is we're aligning that. So let's just say we had a baby car seat company. So here's this baby car seat company, and we align that with a child road safety nonprofit. This car company has then instantly got double their customer base, because you're now working with this nonprofit as well, who's able to share that this is their partner. So straight away, as a portfolio company, you're going to have basically a double stream of marketing going on without you having to really get involved in the other side of it. And that's, I'm saying baby car seat just as an example. It can be anything. And we're going to try and align those portfolio companies with a nonprofit that meets it like that they'll work together. So, for example, a veteran psychedelic nonprofit, we've aligned with a herbal medicine company. So they kind of work well together. And I would say, if you speak to any other VC fund, they're probably inundated with requests for investment. Like, that's very true. We're not at all. We've had very, very little portfolio companies come to us, because I think the fear of giving their profits away is something but once we explain how it works and how your profits are actually going to work for you, it comes to it. So I almost like, give me the chance to explain it to you. And once you can hear it, and if it's not for you, it's not for you, that's fine. But it is something that creates some real growth for your company, because you're still going to be looking at that exit. If you're a company that wants to build to exit, this is the way to do it. And then the nonprofits, again, we'll look at anything. We want to kind of keep away from anything that's divisive, anything that's maybe based on religion or based on anything that's going to cause a division. We don't really want to get involved in that. It needs to be open to everyone, that your cause helps everyone regardless of race, religion, etc. So that's our only real thing with the nonprofits. And then the other thing is that if the nonprofit's currently running around about one or two sources of income. So if there's like, your main income is through grants, or your main income is through fundraisers, or monthly donations, or if you're corporate donors, if you generally operate around one or two sources of income, we want to hear from you, because within everything that we're doing, regardless of just partnering you up with the for-profit, we're going to help you be more successful regardless. So we'll come in, we'll assess your situation, we'll hopefully work, if you've got a development director, we'll work with them to make sure that they're firing on all cylinders, really. So there. And then the fourth one would be companies or individuals who want to give more if they're currently using their philanthropic dollars poorly. And by I mean giving away things in kind. Like, a lot of companies will give stuff away in kind, but they're not getting the right tax write-offs for it, or they don't have an alignment with a foundation, or they don't they want to do more, but you just don't know how to, or the biggest one I get is it's too much hassle to run a 501c3. So if you're that person, like, we definitely want to hear from you, because we'll take all that off you. We'll do all the management. You won't need any compliance stuff, because we're going to be running it on your behalf. We'll create your foundation on your behalf and run all the finances for you.
Like, there to make somebody feel motivated to do something, because that's no joke. Running a 501c3 for sure, or just even starting one, just to get the paperwork and all that kind of stuff done. Is there a fee for any of these people, whether on either side of the house, to start with?
So obviously your investors are not paying a fee directly. They're paying the percentage, which is the 2.5 standard venture capital fee, and that comes out of their investment money. So that's just pretty standard throughout everyone. Mm-hmm. For the management of their DAF funds, there's a fee. It's kind of on a sliding scale. It's between 1% and 3%. But again, it's out of the funds that they donate, so they're not having to pay extra into it. The only fee or physical fee that MD might have to do is if we come into the nonprofit and the nonprofit needs a lot of help, and we actually need to assign a management to that nonprofit, then we can't legally take percentages. We have to then assign a fixed fee to that. But depending on how much we would do an assessment and be like, yeah, okay, we believe we can double your income, or we believe we can do this. then we assign that fee. The great thing is the nonprofit can go and raise that fee. There's a lot of people that will pay fees for our fees, but we do that, and we'd love to be able to say we would take a percentage of what we raise for you, but you're not allowed to do that in a lot of states. So we kind of keep that side of it away and just make it a fixed fee.
Okay. Are you operational just in the United States right now, or how does that work?
So our my partner is in London, our legal counsel is in Australia. Like we're pretty much spread. We're all over the place. And we're looking at projects in, especially the nonprofit stuff. We've got South Africa. We're looking at a few African projects actually.
Okay.
What we want to do within some of the things that have been approached with us in Africa is more based around building infrastructure in Africa to keep economies growing there rather than exportation. So we're not looking at exportation stuff because we're pretty against that. We're wanting to actually build the infrastructure in the land because that's part of what we're doing is building communities, and that's really important to us. For the 501 side of it, we're currently only in the US. The plan is to expand to the UK but we're kind of, get the US stuff set up first and then we'll move, because I think the UK is still just as bad. I think it's still about a year waiting list for nonprofits in the UK. And then eventually, give me a 10-year plan and then we will have nonprofits in each one. So I say that in the way of, if you want your tax write-off, you need to be a US resident.
So knowing you the way I do, and knowing that probably what you're doing with whatever all the entities that you're involved in, but I'm sure Rakini is part of it too, is you have such a heart for eradicating human trafficking. And I know that's part of what you do here. How are you tying it to your own passion?
Yeah, so Blue Rose is my foundation. We're using that almost as a test pilot. So the Blue Rose LLC, which is going to be our for-profit arm of Blue Rose, is going to create tech, IP, AI, all based around fighting trafficking online, because that's the way we need to fight trafficking now. So most of the trafficking is happening online now. So we're working with some big tech companies, social media companies, big platforms, and they'll this will be funded through the for-profit, and then all the profits will go back to Blue Rose. So we're using that as a bit of a test to show how it works, that everything keeps going through that way. And that's that. When it comes to IP, that's a really good way for the nonprofit to operate, because sometimes there's a lot of very valuable IP within a nonprofit. And if you've ever run a nonprofit, you can lose it at any point. Like you could start it from day one, take it through 10 years, and then your board can kick you out. So I always say that it's worthwhile having a for-profit arm where you hold everything that nonprofit has, so nobody can take that away from you.
Do you find that when you're working with nonprofits and charities and whatnot, that they all have boards of directors, and that you have any kind of bumps in the road as you deal with that?
You know what? I've had zero issues with any of the boards that I've worked with, because I'm coming in to make them money, and I've got that's their biggest thing, is they want money. Like, how do we get money and how do we get it fast? And normally what I'll come in, if I'm saying, look, my fee is $50,000 to come in, or if I'm saying my fees, it depends what I'm doing. So one of my last clients, for example, it was 120,000 that my fee was, but I knew I was going to bring in 2 million to them. So I knew that it was going to be worth it for them. We had to get that signed off, and it was actually one of the board members who went and found the donor for that specifically to pay for my fee. So then they got the donor to put that fee in. I came in and I was immediately able to get started and get them this money returned. So they're okay, like it's fine. And then we are starting to grow the money. So I've never really had an issue, because pretty much all board members want me to take the hassle away from them of having to find the money.
So when you're looking at helping with more revenue streams, because I think that's fascinating, and I propose that a lot. When I'm sitting on a board or whatever, and I see only one way of getting money, and I keep thinking you're really pushing yourself in that very thin space. If that's all you're doing, that's the only way that you're raising money. And I hear the words that come back to me, well, we've tried this or we've tried that and it just doesn't work, or the board is so global or whatever, it's really hard to get everybody to meet to do this, or
whatever it is. You meet with a lot of kind of brick walls on that, or it's just too hard, to kind of overcome some of the challenges there. What, ask you your trade secrets about what it is that you do when you're looking at that. And I know it's not the same for every nonprofit that you're looking at because it's maybe not a fit for each one. But are there certain questions you ask that help you determine what types of revenue streams that you would present to
Yeah.
them?
I think first of all, you're going to look at like I had two very opposing nonprofits once. One was both of them were doing the same thing. They were both trying to eradicate orphanages because orphanages in especially in Eastern Europe have a high prevalence of trafficking. One was run by a famous celebrity who was putting all their money into it themselves. The other was run in the way of corporate donations. They had a huge corporate backing. I was actually trying to get them to work together because that would have been like the best thing. They were going for the same aim. But that's kind of how we'll look at it and be like, right, okay, that's fine that you want to put all your money into there, but are you doing it tax efficiently? Are you doing it in the right way? Can you be more beneficial that would effectively benefit the nonprofit in the end? If they have like high following, so a lot of things like the Navy SEAL Foundation, like I haven't worked with them, I think they're doing a great job anyway, but some of these charities have like a couple of million followers on Instagram and they're not tapping into them. So they're not tapping into like the monthly donations or the kind of pledge giving or like the social media interaction giving days and things like that. They're not really going for them. But the monthly donation one is what I always try and go for if they're doing that. So corporate legacy building, a lot of people are not looking at targeting wills and gifts and in kind. That's another one. It gets confusing how to accept cars or houses or any of these types of things. Securities like stock, shares, bonds, all these types of things are a great one because you could have bought that stock at $2 and it's now worth $20. If you donate that, you get the $20 write-off. So that's a great way to get your end of year write-off done without really giving away your cash, without doing the things. So we have companies we work with that do all that for us. So they'll take the donated stock and convert it to fiat or convert it to cash. And then we're working right now on new platforms that can take crypto and convert it as well. So that's another big one. And the most important one about that is you're getting that tax write-off. So you're getting like if you put $1 million in crypto into our company, we'll convert it to fiat and you'll get your $1 million US dollar write-off. So there's those. I mean, I might have listed them all, but those are kind of the basics that we'll look at. Planning, those are events are great, but they can be hit or miss. They can be like I had one on Saturday that took in just $960,000 in one night, which was brilliant. So proud of them. But sometimes it can be not so great.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you're right. It is hit or miss. And honestly, depending on how big it is, it can be a monster to put together. And then you're contingent on a lot of different variables. I mean, with weather and, if you've got speaker sick or you don't have plan B or you never know. There's 100 things that could go wrong. So
yeah.
Really
but some of them have got the formula right. Like I know with the Navy SEALs Foundation, they charge, I think it's $4,000 per seat. So before they've even opened the door at their event, they're happy.
They're already paid for. Yeah. That's true. I know that just in working with Rotary, I work with foundation and grants, and one of the things that we did this year is we quit doing a golf tournament. Instead, we raffle off a golf cart, and we start in the spring. We used to start like in the fall and then give it away right before Christmas. Well, this time we started in the spring, and before we even hit midsummer, we had already paid for the golf cart, and so everything else we made was gravy.
Yeah. That's another one for the large following ones. Because if you're saying you can win a house and all you have to do is put $5 in and you've got, 2 million followers and they all buy a few tickets, like you can quickly get the value of that house and then everything else is profit. So
I think that's just where we all work to sell the tickets in different venues and stuff like that, but it was easier because it was spread over a longer period of time. And honestly, putting together a golf tournament when most everybody in the county does them, for fundraisers. you're competing with a lot of people, and it's it's really challenging. It's a lot of work. So this was a little bit easier.
Yeah, and the other part of this, and the reason that we had the idea for the nonprofit to for profit to nonprofit, manage both, do all those things there, and then I came to learn more about DAF funds, and I came to understand more about how things are managed. And when I started learning there, I was like, this is another thing that's a problem, because if we take it right now, there's $300 billion sitting in DAF funds being managed that are not being deployed where they should be being deployed. So if you take Fidelity Trust, for example, and this is publicly available information, but they have 14.9 billion under management on their DAF funds. And from that, they take about 127 million in fees in a rush to deploy this money. So it's kind of just sitting there, not do it. So the donor's already had his write-off. He's happy. He's got what he wanted. They're taking a big chunky fee for holding this money, but it's not going to the nonprofits. And I feel like that's because, yeah. And I think it's because there's this like scarcity mindset where they feel like if they give it away, nothing else is going to come in, not realizing that the more you do, the more people will want to invest in that and keep going. We want to get that changed as well, get that money moving.
Yeah, I mean that's critical. I mean that's a scary thing that's happening right now. So where do you think you are? You know, you mentioned about in 10 years you wanted to have it all around, but just in the next year, where do you want to be with Rakini?
So we're going to officially properly launch. We've been doing all the work this year to get it up to speed. Launch in January is the plan. Not the plan, it's happening. And then by the end of next year, we want to have we'd like to have hit the fund, which we're kind of keeping the total secret, but it's about 100 million.
Not now. Not now.
And then be fully working with. We'd like to find the 20 portfolio companies. That's our target, is to have 20 portfolio companies under our belt, and then start already operating with. But when it comes to the DAF funds, it would be great to actually get that fully up and running before the end of the year. And I don't want to be too pushy with that, because we've applied for a 501 status on that, and you know what they're like, that could take probably, I imagine it'll be June before we receive the status on that one. And then
that's an IRS thing. Yeah,
there's not much we
wait for the
could do
government to get themselves back in gear.
Yeah, but the great thing is, if somebody does want to do it in January, they still will get the write-off for that year, but we just can't physically give them the certificate till we get it. And then DAFs are very, very new, relatively new. They're about 7 years they've really been operating. I mean, I was at the DAF Summit in September, and there was 493 people there. I think the year before was 200, the year before that was 100. So it's starting to grow. But I was in Canada last week talking about it, and they'd never heard of DAFs.
I was going to ask you, why? Why have people not heard about this?
It's such a new thing. It's such a because we're in the middle of that, like that moment of this great wealth transfer is happening. The philanthropic dollars are starting to move, but nobody knows where to move them to. And the other thing that I was finding, that when I was talking to DAF managers, I was asking, you know me with due diligence is everything to me. And I was asking what due diligence they were doing on the nonprofits, and they really aren't doing that much. And I was like, I said, how do you do it then? And they say they'll look for the most kind of popular ones. So if the person says veterans, they'll go for, you know, the ones that are highest up in the Google search, and you and me know that those ones aren't the ones that are doing the real grassroots work. But for the DAF managers, that's work that they don't really want to be doing.
They don't have to do much. Well, that brings up the question: is how do you do your due diligence on the charities and the nonprofits that you?
Well, I think that's one of the other USPs about our organization. So part of my job right now is I do due diligence for nonprofits, and I do due diligence for donors and for VC funds and private equity companies. That some of my clients are private equity companies myself. So they'll come to me with all the founders and everybody who's involved in this company and say, just run background on them and make sure that they're legit and they're good and all their claims are real. And then I just do that's my job anyway. So we in Rakini have an in-house due diligence. We don't outsource it to anybody. Because it's all, this is my bread and butter. It's what I do. I
Yeah.
do. We do every check. And the reason it's slightly different is when if you hire a background check company, usually it's through like Thomson Reuters, Clear, or one of these types of platforms. You're missing the human intelligence side of that. So like we can run a check. I could run a check on Mary Kurek and I'll see that she's perfect and her husband's perfect and everything. But I want to dig deeper. I want to really look at your social media. I want to see like, oh, have these figures that you've said, are they like aligned with like other people in the market? Are they looking at these things? Has anybody that you've connected with had bankruptcies, liens? Like what do you and your associates look like? And then that can give me a bigger picture than just what Clear will show. So that's how I guess that's my selling point when I'm pitching to clients now. So
Yeah.
the fact that we have that as an in-house service is really huge.
Plus, a huge plus, because I think you could see red flags with your personal experience. No algorithm's going to be able to really pick up.
Sometimes it can just help them more, you know, even if a valuation's been inflated or something, and we can be able to pull that in for them, then we can work. Sometimes the pitch isn't that they're lying, it's just that they maybe don't know. They maybe think
Yeah.
something's different, and we'll kind of help them with that as well. Well, actually, your value here is a little bit high, or your cost of materials is high. We can maybe help you get that cheaper or better. Or so it's coming from more of a multi-talent, and our one of our general partners, Dominique. I don't know if I've introduced you to Dominique yet. I have to. She's incredible. She has a strong background in VC. Like that's what she does, and she's closed. I think her last fund was 30 million in sexual health. So she's amazing. But she has zero experience in the nonprofit world, other than having a strong passion for helping women and girls, and human trafficking. So she is also on my board for Blue Rose as well. So then yeah, I think it's a light you've known me for a while, but it's the first time I feel like I'm really aligned with both my philanthropic world and business world. I feel like it's really come together well.
That's it. Wow, this is a lot of good information. I'm tickled. So I think what I wanted to ask you too is from the standpoint of working with partners, would because you mentioned funds, do you or are you currently working with people who have funds that
I would
companies
definitely
that have
want to.
funds? Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely want to speak to other people who might want to partner on it. I know that I've spoke to a couple of funds who would like to be more involved in the philanthropic side for sure, but they don't know how
Mhm.
to quite do that. So a couple of
Mhm.
private investment companies and VC companies have reached out to see if I could run their foundation side, which is an absolute yes, I can do that.
Okay.
And then there's the other side of it that, you know, this is me, and you know, like we've always done this, that we have Dominique, I have some good legal counsel, I have Dean, but we do want advisors. Like I've never been somebody who's like, I'll do it on my own.
Yeah.
I love collaboration.
Good
So
people around you. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, if there's people around us with some expertise in anything that I've said, then definitely like I would love to with strategic advisors both on Blue Rose and Rakini.
I was just thinking from a startup standpoint, say a founder standpoint, who is okay, basically raising funds. Let's just say they're raising $10 million for something in the medical space. And they have a background in finance, but still struggling a little bit to get this money raised. What would you advise them from a standpoint of maybe potentially putting together a nonprofit company and working with Rakini? Is that a scenario that would work with you?
Yeah, I was talking to someone recently, in fact, in the medical field as well, and they want to do exactly that because they do have a lot of people that they work with that would want to give money more on the nonprofit side, but their product would align. So, for example, this particular company is a hyperbaric oxygen chamber thing,
Yeah.
and it's got proprietary, it's got patents, it's got all sorts of things. I said to them, if you set up a non-profit foundation side of what you're doing, and
Mhm.
in that non-profit, you could take in veterans, cancer patients, all these types of things, and you can get grants through there, but then you license it to your for-profit. And then as that grows, you give your profits back to the non-profit. So it's kind of this little, and that's the whole idea, is to get this cycle going on, that the
Mhm.
for-profit and the non-profit are helping each other. So yeah, if you've got an idea as a for-profit company and you want, and even if you're a company that already exists and you don't need investment, you're just a great company. We've had a couple of them, like large companies, who've said, we want a foundation arm, we want to do something, but we want zero in managing it. We don't want anything to
Yeah,
do with it.
yeah.
But we,
Make it easy. Hit the easy
yeah,
button.
yeah. That's like super easy for us to do. We can take all that off their hands. So yeah.
That's crazy good. I'm telling you, between you doing like all the paperwork for starting a foundation or a 501(c)(3) or becoming like the family office for somebody else that doesn't, want to do it, doing all the due diligence work and running, monies into impact is terrific. I mean, this is just a great solution, I think, for lots of different challenges that people have out there. So, and it's funny in different ways. It's really interesting how it hits different scenarios in like maybe 4 or 5 different verticals.
And it's really interesting to meet people, and sometimes someone will just get it. As soon as I say it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then other people are like, what? You want to do what?
Yeah.
Like give all your profits away? Like, and then it takes me a minute. It can sometimes take
Well,
me a lot longer with certain types of people
I think
who
you said
don't
when
need.
you say like profits past your expenses or all the things it takes to run your business, then I think that makes a difference when people say you can still have all the stuff that it needs to
Yeah.
take. It takes to
Well, it
take.
is, and it's like, do you want to die with a swimming pool full of money, or do you want to die with your name attached to so many
Yeah.
amazing things that can happen in the world? And
And still be and even be a more successful business because of that. To be
yeah,
able to create that
yeah.
legacy
I
of
mean,
your
I
dad.
think
So
some of the people that have come before me, like Paul Newman, like he done this. He was like, why do I need all this money? And his
yeah.
brand gives 100%. Patagonia
Um,
are operating like this now. There's a
yeah.
few businesses that have
Yeah.
picked it up, and I would say that they're very successful with it. And I think there's a lot of people that want to try it, but they're not sure. So we can
Mhm.
do that too. We can start with maybe like 10% of your profits, and then we'll slowly grow it if you want to, or if you want to. And we're going to have eventually as well, we'll have like an index to show like how giving your company is, or how giving your family is. So there'll be this little measurement of how much impact you're having in the world, which would be
That's
cool.
good. I mean, I think that's what people look for, not just that, that this is happening and this is good, but that there's actual impact numbers to go with it
Yeah.
that, that help you. So measurement is always good. Tracking, perfect. Yes, this is fantastic. Well, thank you so much for stepping forward and sharing a bit about this. I think this is going to help a lot of people understand how to move forward and maybe put a resource in their pocket that they didn't have before. So I'm hoping so, because I'm planning to move it around myself to some people for sure. But yeah, thank you very much. And if there is one thing that you would share with any of the viewers that you'd like to say, anything, final words?
Oh, I hate those final words moments. I just think that it is possible to, there's almost this like, there's this weird thing about left or right, the good or bad. Like, it's like you can be in the middle, you can make money and still do amazing things. And this is what we're trying to do, and trying to show like this will give you everything that you need without having to sacrifice. But I think like as a world, we need to start working together to fix it. And this could hopefully be a solution to that.
Thank you. So thank you, and thank everybody for checking in with us, and we'll see you next time on Front Runners Innovate. Thanks, Alana.
Thank you.
Hang with
Thank
me.
you.